Mark,
What's happening?
what's going on? We have our next World Without a Justice League tie-in special. This one with Green Lantern. We'll talk about what that means right after. Welcome to this next edition of DC Comics Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths Deep Dive.
Thanks a lot for that, Joshua Williams.
It is. It's a lot. It's a lot to say. As always, I'm Paul. He is Mark. Make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe while you're here. Don't forget to hit the notification button so that you're alerted whenever we upload a new episode.
And leave a comment to be entered in the big giveaway at the end of all of this.
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, we are now on the second of what I believe is 5 World Without a Justice League special tie-ins. This one has Green Lantern with a backup by Hawk Girl. And so we kind of saw the Green Lantern world at the end of Dark Crisis number 3. We saw it really briefly in the last couple of panels where Hal was there, although he doesn't appear in this particular tie-in.
Yeah, that threw me off. It felt like a direct lead into this.
Right.
And then they don't touch on that at all. They give us a complete unique story.
Yeah, I kind of thought that it was going to be that Hal would somehow be a part of this as well, but we basically jump right into talking about. We hear there's some off-screen or off-panel rather discussions about exactly who John Stewart is. He is basically the guardian of this particular world, and it goes on and talks about his whole history and how he became. You can tell it's between two different people. They're talking about exactly who John is and how he became who he was, and he talks about he was a Marine, and they asked you know what a Marine was, and he says no, or they say no. And so it goes in basically to talk about how John became basically the guardian and the savior of this particular world.
It sounds like almost of the universe, like he's referred to as the guardian, like of all the ring slingers, even like he's the top dog.
Right, exactly. And so what happens is we see Kyle, or a version of Kyle in this particular world, doing some battle against some things, and he basically says that he has to call upon John again to try to save the world.
Yeah, it's
And so
Kyle along with other ring slingers battling these all black alien insect-ish entities, and they're just getting overwhelmed. They can't do it without John.
Right. And so we flash to where John is, and John is basically in this what to me appeals to be like a Smallville type setting almost.
Yeah, I thought they were on the Kent farm for a minute.
Yeah. Basically building a fence to keep out the rabbits. And while he is there, there's some discussion going on between it is his sister, I believe, and his daughter. Yeah, right. Yes, right.
His sister and his mom. Yeah.
Right. Correct. His sister is young, very young, and obviously his mom's a little bit older. And they talk about something that suddenly his daughter's eyes,
sister's eyes.
Sorry, sister's eyes.
Yeah, she's unusually young for John's age and the mom's age. The mom is gray-haired, old, obviously very elderly, and this is a very young daughter looking to be, I guess, around the age of 8 to 10-ish, around there.
Correct.
Something looks off. Then her eyes just light up green.
Right. And so, and then she turns entirely green and starts to float up into the air. And basically, John is obviously alarmed, and she says that they found her, John. Many of us have fallen. The bright revenant is with them.
So Kyle has projected through this child and sent him a direct message. Right, it's the most laziest form of a telephone I've ever seen.
It's a picture phone. um, and so John and his sister, sorry, his mother, talk some more, and basically what we find is that John explains that when there was a battle for Oa, what he did was he basically hid the battery inside his sister.
Yeah, she's not even really his sister. His sister is, we come find out his sister's dead.
Right.
His sister's dead, and he's recreated her via construct.
Hmm.
So his sister is a construct that's fueled by the power battery of Oa, which is inside of her. But they make the comment that she is really his sister, but she's still a construct, which is kind of a little weird. But that she doesn't age. She's forever this age. That explains why that's like that. And apparently, him and his mother both are having a hard time letting go. So they don't want this entity that's looking for her, because it's looking for the battery to find her. So he's off to go fight this evil. He's supposed to be retired, just living on this farm and for just living his life out with his family. But he's having to step up and step out to go handle this, to keep his sister, who he's essentially brought back from the dead, safe.
Hmm. Right.
That's a
And
big no
so,
with the in the Lantern universe. You don't bring people back from the dead.
right, right. Um, and so he explains to his mother that he needs to go and fight, and she makes him promise that he'll come back, um, because obviously now we know that she has lost her daughter, and now has been brought back by as a construct, but she doesn't want to lose him as well. So he promises to come back, and he flies off, and he takes on the form of the Guardian then.
And also some
Um,
great panel work too. You just see him lifting off from Earth, and you just see the green come over him. Then you see the cape come down. Then you see the
mhm.
the symbol light up on his chest. Then his hand goes out, and the spear appears, and then he's just in the full garb. It's a really awesome design. The full
Yeah,
body, full energy design. I was digging the design big time.
yeah, and that is the design, obviously, for him inside the issue. And you're absolutely right. It is just incredible what he does. And so then he comes and he starts to battle the Bright Revenant, and it really is. It shows relatively quickly just how powerful John is, um, because he does basically, as lanterns are falling around him. They start off with like 2,300 or whatever, and by the time he gets there, there's only 932 that are left. Um, and so he then takes on the Bright Revenant all by himself, and in basically one huge blow with the spear, he defeats the Bright Revenant.
Yeah, it was a pretty massive blow too. He comes in,
Yeah.
double spearing it, wham! It
Mhm.
was a
Yep.
big explosion. Really cool. And by doing that, it also took out the subsequent creatures that were obviously kind of part of it. And the
Right.
whole Lantern Corps rejoices at that point. And the cast of the Lantern Corps was cool. You got the Red Hood in there. You've got Steele's daughter in there, like you said, Kyle Rayner.
Hmm.
Kilowog made one panel appearance. I did notice that. That was dope.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he ends up then, back on the farm. Um, and he basically it ends with saying that that they'll never part again. Um, so the big thing about these tie-ins is that the Justice Leaguers end up on worlds that to them are considered paradise. Um, so I guess the discussion has to be, what was it about this particular world? Why was John put on a world where he was the Guardian? Um,
So that I've thought about that directly.
mhm,
Now, Pariah's goal is to fuel his machine with hope. He's drawing hope from the characters of Earth Zero. And that's what John was kind of the symbol of in this issue. Like when all hope was lost, they could call John and he could reinstill that hope and just really put it back in everybody and succeed. So I think that was kind of the focal of this one.
yeah. In the Superman one, it was very obvious as you watched, John, age, and he had all those years that he missed. To me, I was struck by what they didn't mention here. Here, John had been known he had saved the universe. And so is this his paradise because in the real world he was
No,
not able to save Xanshi?
no, he was not.
You
Biggest
know,
failure he's got.
right. And so is this his paradise because it's making up, it's atoning for what he wasn't able to do in the real world?
Yeah, and we touched
And
on that with the last deep dive we did at the end when Hal landed on planet John Stewart. And I even wondered if that planet was a construct version of the one that he wasn't able to save previously. So I don't know. Might be tying into that. That would be cool if they come back and revisit that. It'd be
yeah,
worth mentioning.
yeah, I mean, and I thought it was, it's a great way that when they're doing these World Without a Justice League, that they're doing callbacks to things, in the past that have happened as kind of a kind of a nice nod to the whole history of the DC universe, because although John Kent is relatively new to the DC universe, Cosmic Odyssey and the death of Xanshi goes back a good 30, 40 years almost, back to the 80s, when it happened. So it's kind of I look even further back in DC's history. And so then we move to the second story, which was Hawk Girl, which I really enjoyed.
It
One of
was
the
a
things
major
that
tone shift. It was definitely a
yeah,
tone shift. So that worked good since it's a backup story. It's not like it's definitely two separate stories and styles.
yeah, much like was in the Superman one, right? The the,
Mhm.
the tones of Aquaman and Superman were much different. So here we find Hawkgirl, um, Saunders. I can't remember her first name. Shira Saunders.
Beaten through the bush in South
Right.
America.
Exactly. Ending up in a pyramid. Basically, she's looking for something. We don't know exactly what at the time, but she talks about all of her different experiences that she's had in her lives, because she
And
had
how
been
being
reincarnated
immortal is
so many times.
practically a curse. Living forever is not living at all. It's the opposite of getting to be able to live. And there was the little philosophical touch that they put into this, and quoting Da Vinci, where he said, "I thought I was learning to live, I was only learning to die," and kind of showing you her motivation for what she's doing. Though we haven't found out what she's doing yet, and it kind of just you kind of get an idea ahead of time. I thought that was a good touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And in all of DC history, I think probably Hawkman and Hawkgirl have probably had the most convoluted histories of almost any characters,
Put him
because
up there
they've
with Donna Troy.
Yeah, exactly right, Donna Troy, because they have been basically a million different things, and so how they kind of try to explain it in the past is, well, they just get reincarnated over and over and over again to become something different every single time. Robert Venditti tried to kind of clean it up a little bit when in his Hawkman series that he did, but here, um, basically, we find that Hawkgirl's paradise world is one where she can die and die, or be mortal and die for good and
Yeah,
not
she
come
what
back.
she was looking for inside this pyramid was the vase of mortality, and she was able to find it. She got it. She drank it. She is a happy camper. She had a little battle against skeletons after drinking it and saw what it felt like to actually fight where the stakes were real. And you kind of get to see her go from sheer terror to delight in it, to know that this actually means something now. She found meaning in her life. It was fantastic.
Right. And so at the end, when she finishes battling these skeletons, coming out of the darkness, as having watched her, is Pariah.
She's coming
Is
out laughing. Yeah, just two panels. Ha
exactly.
ha ha ha.
Do it again.
So classic villain.
Yeah, exactly. There should have been a BW at the beginning of that. If
That would
that
have
was
been
if that,
perfect.
if that was Ted Core, that would have been wahaha.
Yeah.
um, and so she walks off, obviously, to go wherever she goes. We don't see any more than that. But obviously Pariah is pleased, because I can only assume that he's pleased because she feels as though she's pleased in where she is right now. Unlike Aquaman, who still only seems to be the only person who
That
seems to
snapped out
realize
of it.
what's
Yeah.
going on. Um, the two characters in this particular one shot do not seem to realize what's going on. And then we get the tease for the next issue. It is going to be Wonder Woman in the next issue for the Worlds Without a Justice League.
So this one's pretty straightforward this week.
Yeah, yeah. Next week we have the final issue in the search. Well, the third or fourth. They've added the fourth issue, but really kind of the final issue of the search for Barry Allen. And then we also have Young Justice #3 as well. So I don't know if we'll see Mickey mixes Pitalik or not this week, or if it's still another issue or two away, because it is 6 issues. This will be issue #3. But yeah, it was really I loved the issue. I loved the cover. The cover to this one was just incredible. And the stories were good as well. A little bit straightforward. Again, nothing too. It wasn't quite as deep as the Superman one, where you could really kind of hit you in the feels and everything.
Knock that out the park, man.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a much needed Superman story.
Yeah, and it didn't really kind of put kind of a, hey, I wonder what's going to happen next at the end of the Aquaman story, where he knows what's going on and he kind of vows that he's going to get back at him. These both kind of ended just kind of almost where they started at, for in some ways.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
it's they can't all be extreme winners. I think they weren't bad issues at all in my opinion. They just kind of were they advanced the story for what they were designed to do, I think. But I don't think they were the best entries yet in this series.
No, I want that bigger narrative. I want to be moving that needle, but like you said, they can't all be that.
Right. So that's going to do it for this episode of DC Crisis, DC Comics Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths Deep Dive, episode number 10. As always, I am Paul, and he is
Mark.
But we are Legion, and you are now leaving Sector 28.
Sector 2815. Yeah.
All right.